Hi, I'm Stefan from Richard's Auto Electrical. Today I want to run through the torque converter lockup kit that we build for the Toyota Land Cruisers and some other Toyota vehicles. The Toyota kit consists of a few components. We have a control box, some relays, a switch and some instructions. As soon as you get your kit, the first thing we would like to do is run through the instructions and make sure that the instructions match your vehicle make, model and year. So this is for a Toyota Land Cruiser 200 series, 6-speed automatic from 2007 to 2015. We're going to be fitting this to 2012 GX. Opening up our instructions, we want to have a brief read through and make sure we understand each step, especially when it comes to terminating the wires. We do get a lot of phone calls asking, are these the correct wires and how do we identify them? We have an illustration here with the correct locations and also the pin numbers and the wire colours. It's important that you double check all of your connections before you make your final solders. If you follow the instructions and give us a phone call if you have any other questions, the installation is very smooth and should take someone around 3 hours to install. The final page of our instructions runs through how to operate the lockup kit. We're going to do another video a little bit later on with the exact instructions on how to operate it, and we'll be in the vehicle testing out the transmission lockup kit on this 2012 GX. Today in the shop we have a 200 series Land Cruiser 2012 GX and we're going to fit a Richard's Auto transmission lockup kit. We're going to start by looking around and seeing the locations we need to access to fit our kit. Most importantly, we need access to the ECU, which is on the passenger side firewall down here. We also need access to the passenger side battery, the starting battery. Coming inside the vehicle, we need to gain access just behind the dash here, the lower dash, and that's where our transmission lockup kit will fit. We must put the switch in the dash, and this customer's chosen the 3-way switch, and we're going to put that on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. Opening up our instructions and following our steps. Step 1 is to locate some ends of our transmission lockup kit. We have a couple of harnesses here. This harness here without the ends terminated needs to end up under the engine bay out through the firewall. And we're going to place a skewer in through the firewall, tape it and pull these wires through. Step 2, with your vehicle off, remove the negative battery terminals from both batteries and remove the key from the vehicle. We're now going to remove the multi-pin connector from the top of the ECU. There's 2 connectors there. We must remove the top one and later on the bottom connector. To make this part easier, I'm going to remove 3 screws that hold this black junction box in place. One down the back, one on the side and one on the front. What this does is allows this box to move so that we can gain better access to the connector. I'm going to push in the bottom pin here and pull up on that grey thumb lock. What that does is cantilevers the connector out of the ECU. The lower one is exactly the same. We'll do that one in a moment. We're going to start by removing the weather shroud on the connector. There's a single zip tie holding it on. We come in from the top and depress the pins. allows that connector to remove from the vehicle. What this does is opens up the back of the connector so that we can locate the correct wires that we need to find and cut for our torque converter lockup kit. Remembering to always double check our wiring colours against the pin locations to ensure that we're correct. We're looking for 2 wires, a blue with a yellow stripe and a blue with a red stripe. Pin B15 and B14. Our diagram 2 illustrates whereabouts they are on the connector. This is looking in to where the cables, the wires, enter the back of the connector. So if I now compare that with my connector, we have large wires at the top, we have small wires at the bottom. We're going to come down to the 3rd and 4th wire. So if I can now isolate out the 3rd and the 4th, the 3rd is a blue wire with a yellow stripe, just like our diagram. And the 4th wire is a blue wire with a red stripe, just as per our diagram. So they're our correct 2 wires now found. We're going to start by cutting them one at a time, and just to be sure, we're actually going to cut them in 2 different lengths. Therefore, if we needed to put them back together, we still can. I'll start by stripping the ends neatly. I've also left the black and the brown slightly longer. This will help me terminate them. The next connection to make, turning our page, is on the bottom ECU connector. So this is the top one that we've already terminated our 4 wires into. We must now gain access to the lower one. So he's removed exactly the same. Push down on the connector and remove him. This is the lower connector here. If I turn that over so we can see where the wires come in, we can align it like our photograph and select the appropriate wire. The wire that we're looking for here is a pink wire, and in this particular vehicle it has a red trace. So it's a pinky purple with a red trace. Going to break it, we're just going to strip back the plastic insulation, and then we're simply going to solder our purple wire on. Using some vinyl tape. Make sure you wrap it nice and tightly because you don't want any moisture to get onto the connection. We're going to reconnect the lower connector on the ECU. So orientating with the grey thumb lock down the bottom left hand side. You see there's some other wires in the way here. And then lifting up on the thumb lock until it goes click into place. It should be really easy. If it's difficult, check what you're doing. The top connector can go back on, exactly the same. We're going to run our orange and grey wires, which are long enough to reach to the passenger side battery. These must go onto your starting battery. I'm going to start by covering those in some convoluted tubing. We're going to leave these unconnected at the moment. We're going to go inside. We're going to complete the installation of the resistor, position the lockup kit module, and install the switch in the dash. So in here we can find our control module, our resistor block, our relay block, and our resistor. This one here is our switch wiring harness. and he has a red wire halfway along him. What we're going to do is we're going to remove the lower dash panels so that we can plumb this wiring harness across to the steering wheel. To remove the dash panels, first we pull off this black trim panel here. Now if your vehicle is a GX or GXL or a Sahara, they all come apart exactly the same. Bear in mind this is a pre-My 16 update, so this is a 2012 Land Cruiser. Follow the instructions by pulling the first piece off. It just clips on. The next thing we want to do is remove this fastener. Down the bottom here, we have a black push clip. We push in the center of the clip, the whole thing slips away. We're then going to remove this panel. We don't need a lot of access, we just want to get to this dash support here, and we want to be able to put our lockup kit control module in behind here. You see how much access that's opened up for us. We're now going to pop around the driver's side and do exactly the same so that we can get our wire across. We're going to remove the ashtray and cigarette lighter panel next. To give the gear stick a bit more room, we're going to pull it out of park. Make sure you've got the handbrake on, push on the shift lock and pull him down out of gear. We can then simply remove the ashtray and cigarette lighter area. What we're looking to do is obtain power for our lockup kit, ignition switched power. I'm going to do that from the cigarette lighter plug. That is the pink wire is positive. Always insulate your connections. Now we wish to mount the control box and the relay base behind the carpet or vinyl panel where it's easily accessible but nice and secure. I'm going to sit mine down there like that, if you can see it. I'm going to have the relays on their side, not upside down so they can't fall out. And I'm going to route this gold resistor around to somewhere where I can mount him. The idea of mounting the gold resistor is to keep it heat sinked and to stop it from touching any plastic or carpet. I'm going to mount him right there onto that dash brace. We supply a tech screw, a self-drilling tech screw to do this. I'm going to pick one of the holes, just going to drill him in here. And that's then put him out of harm's way where he can't touch any plastic or melt any carpet. He's going to get warm, and that's why we have him heat sinked to this steel brace. We're going to route our switch wiring harness, the one with the little pink ends, across to our location for our switch. We can simply do that by passing it across. So now we have a connector for our idle up button and a connector for our switch. I'm going to start by putting back the cigarette lighter and ashtray, and then we're going to put the two sides back on. So here we've filed out the top and the bottom of our switch holder to allow our 3-position switch to go in. Orientate that with the green to the top. Once you've got your hole size right, it should fit in there and the fascia will cover up any of your modifications. We're now going to reinstall the switch panel into the vehicle. Connecting our wires on the back. If you follow your directions, it does give you the connections of which wires to put where on the back of the switch. Once again, once you've done these, double check them to make sure everything is okay. Remember to plug back in the idle up switch or any other factory switches, and then reinstall the panel into the vehicle. We're now going to complete the install by connecting the orange wire through our fuse to power and our grey wire to our battery negative terminal. I'm going to start by putting our fuse holder on our orange wire. I'm going to cut and solder this one. Last step is to connect positive onto the positive terminal. Orange wire going to our fuse holder. We can make sure that our fuse of 7.5 amps is inside the fuse holder. And then we connect our negative to the negative terminal. If all of our connectors are back together on the ECU inside the vehicle, we're safe to then put the battery negative terminal back on the starting battery. Also remembering that we've taken it off the auxiliary battery because they're in parallel. We've now connected our grey wire for our torque converter lockup kit to the battery negative terminal. We have our fuse in our fuse holder. I'm going to neatly secure the wire right the way back down the back, and then we're going to put the black control box back into place with the 3 bolts that we took out earlier. We need to now test the operation of our torque converter lockup kit. To first test that our transmission lockup kit is working, we're going to press on the bottom of the 3-way switch. This will illuminate a green LED. This marks that our transmission lockup kit is now in automatic mode. I'm going to start by driving in the green mode, which is automatic. What we're looking to notice is that the vehicle drives as standard around town, and only when we get to 80 k's per hour, should the transmission lock up, we'll notice an orange light come on our switch, as well as the RPM dropping. The beauty of having an automatic lockup kit means that we can leave that switch in auto mode all of the time. Here I am driving at 60 k's an hour through town. I observe that nothing is different about the way the car is driving. It's not until we get to 80 k's that automatically triggers the lockup kit into engaging the torque converter. We're going to see that now as I gradually creep towards 80. As the closer I get to 80, we're going to see those revs drop. Right there. We can also see that that orange light has come on our 3-way switch. That's confirming that we're in lockup. We're sitting at 80 k's an hour and we're doing 1500 RPM. That is the ideal speed. If you compare that with our before, we were doing near on 2000 RPM to maintain the same speed. So a 500 RPM decrease. For our downhill driving, where we are right now, we're at about an 80k road. To gain better engine braking, we're actually going to pull the gear stick across into 3rd gear, and on our switch I'm going to select the top button, pushing it in, activating the amber LED. What this has done is lock the torque converter up. This allows me to roll down this hill and get 100% engine braking. If we watch what it does, I'm here at 60, or speed back up to 60. Instead of the RPMs being down around 500 to 1000, it's now holding my speed at 60, and the engine increases its RPM as the speed increases on the vehicle. It is locked 1-to-1. We can shuffle our gears up and still get engine braking in 3rd gear. The main difference being those RPM are still reading out how fast that engine is turning the transmission. It's not slipping, it's giving 100% engine braking. I haven't had to touch my brakes at all down that large hill. It's important to remember that once you've finished descending your hill, you must switch this switch back to its automatic mode. Okay? Green for go. Green is automatic. So the last step of fitting our lockup kit, if you get it fitted by us in Murray Bridge or any of our dealers around Australia, is that we need to update the software on the transmission to accept the parameters of the torque converter lockup kit. By doing this, we prevent the issue of false engine warning lights coming on and makes the vehicle drive and feel like the lockup is part of the vehicle. So that concludes our work on this customer's 2012 GX 200 series cruiser. We've done the transmission lockup kit, we've tested it, it's working brilliantly. We've done the remap on the transmission and proved that the benefits in the remap to drop it into top gear are more efficient, utilise 6th gear and utilise the engine's torque properly. This vehicle's ready to go back to the customer.